darling. How are you? In Dickie's den. We're back in the den.
We're back in Dickie's den. Yes, and it's lovely. It's freezing this morning.
Is it? No, but it's freezing anyway, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I think, note to self, I'll have to get up at the crack of a sparrow's cough at the weekend as well, so that I can come in here and stoke the coals. A lovely little oil heater.
Oh,
I need a rug, ladies. I need a rug.
Get a blow. Get a blow.
Throw. She'll get a throw.
Richard, you need a blow under your table.
Oh dear.
Oh.
No, you can't say that on a Saturday morning.
You
can't say that on a Saturday morning, darling. You can't say you need a blow under your table. It's unacceptable.
No, I have.
I don't know what she means.
An oil heater under here.
Yes,
no, well, that's not so effective at all.
But it's much more eco-friendly, isn't it?
Is it? Is it?
I don't know. All I know is we've had a riveting opening to the show so far. Good morning, ladies.
Darling.
Morning.
I bring news of a jab. I don't know if you saw this week on my Instagram, and also I spoke about it on Good Morning Britain yesterday, but Mum lucky enough to have her jab.
Yes,
I know.
The first one, which was great, actually. So she had it at Lord's. I have to say, if anyone's feeling a little bit nervous about it, don't be, because it was extraordinary to see all these people. Mum was a little bit anxious, as you can imagine, because because as I say, it was at Lord's cricket ground, which I've clearly never been to. Mum lives quite close to it, so she was very lucky. So we hopped in a Joe backseat, got there, and there was a small queue, but you're given like a sort of a 15-minute window, if you like, so that you don't arrive too early. And it was quite emotional just seeing a queue of all people of Mum's generation, you know, doing their bit. The Blitz generation going over the top again, if you like it, and going in. And of course, I said on the show yesterday on Good Morning Britain, I said, you know, they're doing it to unlock all of us, not just obviously to from catching COVID. And it was so simple. The marshals, the volunteers there were incredible. And what was even more poignant was, I'm lucky enough to be able to accompany my mum, and there were some couples who were still partnered there, but there were a lot of people who were there on their own.
On their own.
Yes.
They had cut that solitary figure in confinement since March last year. And
gosh.
You couldn't stop them from getting up the stairs, even though some of them were more gingerly stepping than others because of their age. They were powering through. And so it felt wonderful. I mean, in many ways, because we're stuck indoors and aside from the headlines, and some horrific images that we've seen obviously coming from the hospitals, certainly in recent weeks, it really sort of brought it home, just at the scale of it, when you saw so many people.
Yeah.
But they were all smiles, and the nurses there, all the staff who were administering the jabs, and it really is obviously over in just moments. The people who were going to them were saying just how grateful they were. They were bringing little gifts. One chap, I think, had written down a couple of jokes just to, boost the morale of the staff there. But they were all smiles beneath their masks, so you could tell because their eyes were twinkling. And everybody who left had a similar skip in their step. So it's great. It was quite a moment, actually. I think I underestimated what it would be like, but it was just the sheer scale of it, ladies. But anyway, Mum, we went home, she had a ginger nut, filled us brew, and then I was in the middle of an interview, and the phone kept going. And as you know, when we do these shows and do the calls, if the phone goes, it comes through on the computer. And Mum called several times, and I thought, I hope she's all right. Anyway, she said, Richard, did I actually have the jab? She said, because I didn't feel a thing. I said, Mother, you definitely had the jab.
Isn't that lovely?
You definitely had the jab. So hopefully the second one within the next 3 to 12 weeks. But if anyone is feeling just that wee bit nervous about the whole process, don't be, because it's so spectacularally well organized.
And how did she feel afterwards, Richard? How did it make her feel anything, or did she feel, anything at all?
At the moment, some 24 hours in, she's fine. I've spoken to some colleagues at work whose elderly relatives and parents have had the jab, and some of them have felt a little bit groggy. One described it a bit like a sort of hangover. So it won't touch the sides with us girls. And also, like, a little bit of a dull ache in the arm, because
that's what I heard.
Like the old vaccinations used to be,
Well, exactly, like the old school ones when we used to get the TB jabs and stuff. So so far, all good news, and please
Great.
God, a step in the right direction. So
Oh.
cheers to that, ladies.
And-
Cheers to
Fantastic.
that.
A little bit
Cheers
of
to your mum.
a glimmer of hope in
You-
the,
yes.
in
Ah.
the
Love your
abyss.
mum.
Bless you. So thank you for that. I will send
Her
you,
love.
Please
Yeah.
do.
Lots of kisses. Now, Richard, when
Yes.
you was a little boy, what did your mummy used to cook? What was your favourite foods?
Mum was and still is a great cook, but she doesn't cook as much as she used to. She used to do, it was my so it would be her mother-in-law, it was my nanny Arnold's recipe, and it was a suet steak and kidney pudding.
Oh.
And she would always make it for me whenever I came back from university, and it was to die for. And it would always, you know what the Brits are like. Whenever I have American friends coming over here, like my friend Anne-Marie from New York, she said, "What is it with you Brits? Why do you boil every vegetable?" But Mum would always make like boiled cabbage with it. I used to, and that's when I fell in love with raw cabbage, in the salted water. Whenever she was prepping it on a Saturday, we'd always have it on a Saturday. So that was one of my favorite things. But Mum was also a master or mistress baker, if you like. She used to always knock up a sponge. She was a dab hand with that, and it was wasted on me because I don't have a sweet tooth. Having said that, I used to love all those sort of Nesquik type sort of milkshakes, like raspberry and stuff like that, all things like cream topping,
Dreadful sugary things.
yeah. And I can't remember whether we've had this discussion or not, but I think we have, maybe last week, but about Kate Garraway, and she asked me on Christmas Eve. I texted her to see, can we help out with anything? And she said, well, we always have a sort of a northern, if you like, themed Christmas Eve, because we're at Derek's parents up north, and the kids love the Yorkshire brew, and they love evaporated milk and tinned peaches, and that used to always be the Sunday dessert for us. Was a
Grated milk.
I know. There was a coffee shop
With bread and butter dipped into it.
Oh,
I remember that.
my veins are choking. There was a coffee shop that used to do, it will remain nameless, but it's a big coffee chain, and they used to do sort of iced lattes, and that would be quite the thing. Whenever I was working in an office in town, I'd pop out for a cheeky iced latte, and they're totally addictive. And then I found out the secret ingredient in these iced lattes was condensed milk. So having one of those a day, you're
I love condensed
Do
milk.
you remember instant whips?
Oh yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Are they still around?
Yeah, I think
I
so.
think you can still get them, yeah.
Really?
Oh,
Is that the same as
for me, that's
carnation?
The most divine taste was the instant whip, because I used to, I think it was the caramel one or something.
Caramel.
Like that.
Ooh.
Oh, it was just gorgeous.
Angel Delight was another one.
Hey,
wasn't it?
oh yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Angel Delight. Yeah.
The one thing I remember mostly about treats like that and eating meals back in the day was we all sat at the table.
Yes.
Yes.
We all,
Those days
Yeah.
are gone.
That's
I
right.
know.
My
And
And we
daughter
talk
does.
to each other, not on phones.
That's right. Yeah, my
Which is
daughter
really
does
annoying.
her kids. Yeah. Because she said that it's important, and that's really great actually, because we used to as well. Always at
Yeah.
least have, Sunday lunch we'd all have sitting around the table. If we couldn't
Yeah,
sort of get it all
always.
together, always.
Yeah,
And
always.
it's like when you get like back in the days when we could even have the rule of six, the safe six around at the house, albeit
Yes.
in the garden. Whenever anyone comes over for dinner here, I feel like saying, you know what, if there's four of us and there are four phones at the table, that's
No.
a party for 8 people. So put the phones away. Otherwise,
Put
I
the
would
phones
invite
away.
people.
Yeah.
That's right.
I tell you what I used to do when I was it started when I was about 8 or 9. I would only ever eat baked beans. So I would eat them for breakfast, lunch and dinner, sometimes with toast, but that's all I would eat. Nothing else but baked beans. And I've still got this passion for Heinz baked beans now.
Oh yeah, it has
But
to be
when you say
Heinz.
my mother would despair because she'd go, "You've got to eat something else. You can't just," but baked beans are good for you.
They are.
Wind. Just
Baked
saying wind
beans.
very quickly. Wind.
Baked beans,
Yes, when
rated cathedral cheddar, Worcester sauce.
Oh,
Oh, the
salmon.
A baked potato with baked beans and cheese. Oh my, that is, isn't it? That's real comfort food, isn't it?
It
I
really
still
You know
is.
what my comfort food is? My grandma, when we used to go for tea on a Sunday, used to do, you must have all had this, cucumber sandwiches. And the
Yes.
cucumber was in
Yes.
vinegar. Was always in vinegar, and then she'd
Ooh.
make the sandwiches. Oh, it was
Oh,
just
goodness.
I don't know, foodies who are tuning in may correct me, but isn't a cucumber and vinegar gherkin? I don't know.
gherkin.
Yes.
I love
No.
a gherkin. Oh, I love a gherkin.
You
Coming
can't
from
see-
a Jewish family, you
yeah.
see, my favourite foods was something called simmus. Do you know what that is, Harriet?
No.
So it's
No.
just, it was obviously made many thousands of years ago when the Jews were going from one place to another, and it's the cheapest. It's just lots and lots and lots of carrots and brisket and sugar and potatoes, and it's put in the oven and it's there for 2 or 3 days. And
Oh my God.
and you
Sounds
know what?
brilliant.
It is absolutely delicious. It's one of the best things. And when I used to see my grandma and my mum sitting in the kitchen cutting the carrots, I was so excited because I knew, because it used to take them days to cut the tiny little carrot squares. Oh my God. That was my childhood memory of gorgeous food. I miss my grandma.
And the other
cooking.
childhood memory is popping peas.
Yes.
When
My
you
grandma
get
had
the
a
pea
garden.
pods.
We used to
and
go
you
and
Yes.
get peas and pop the peas.
Oh, that's
And you
Yes.
so therapeutic.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
peas, picking
That's
strawberries
interesting.
with my grandma.
Yeah, it's the process, isn't it? And
Yes.
what you're talking about
The
is
process.
nostalgia of foods that we loved when we were growing up, but it was actually the unifying element of being involved in the process while the
think
cooking was
so.
happening. And we
Yeah.
were all
You know,
sort
that's
of
right.
gathering in the kitchen. It's why the kitchen, even to this day for us anyway, is the hub. It's why I love all the prep. When we sit down to dinner, I'm kind of like, okay.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
actually, the whole process of it, I love. And
Yes.
we've got quite a small kitchen actually, but we don't have a big island or anything to gather around. But blimey, back in the days when this house would be filled with people, it's the cliche. Everything would end up in the kitchen, and that's where it would begin and that's where it would end. But I love that. I love the whole process of it. I find it so therapeutic. I really do.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me
I remember my grandparents had like a freeholding. So they used to have loads of chickens and turkeys. And I had a turkey called Henrietta, which unfortunately we ate, but I didn't realise. They didn't tell me, that we'd eaten the Henrietta. But I remember as you said, Richard, the process. And this sounds really disgusting now, but I used to love, as a kid, gutting the insides out of the chickens. I loved it. Pulling all the giblets out, pulling it out. And the other thing that my grandfather used to do, because he was a South London boy, he used to get eels and he'd cut them up as they were wriggling. I think they still do that. Yep. So he'd be in the kitchen, he'd be chopping the eels, and they were like beautiful size portions of the eels. And then my grandmother would cook them, boil them, and then he'd serve them with mashed potato. And I've still loved that to this day. I know that sounds
That's
really
wonderful.
Well,
I've
yeah.
never had one. Amazing story. Amazing.
How's the gag reflex, Debbie? What a tale! What a tale!
What is
I-
the green? What's
Can
the
I-
green sauce
Go on,
that
Hep.
goes with eels? What
Right.
is that green sauce?
Jelly,
Yeah,
is
that's
that
it,
the
that's-
jelly? Is that the jellied eel sauce?
Yeah, that's well, jellied eels. I remember having it when my grandparents were at the races, and we'd have them. They'd come in like a sort of a cup, like a plastic
Yeah,
cup.
there's a gravy that comes with eels.
Yes, that's right.
Green
It's called
gravy.
liquor. It's called liquor.
Liquor, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you
I
going to say,
remember-
Harriet?
I was just saying my memories of food when I was little was particularly cooking with my grandma. She'd do with my sister and I, we used to do biscuits all the time. But another thing I really sticks in my mind was going to a North London primary school, and breakfast would be toast and marmite, or as Sherry said yesterday, an egg with some soldiers or whatever.
Lovely.
And when I was 8 and we all moved to Hollywood, breakfasts often you'd have out in a cafe, and then this whole world of waffles and bacon,
Waffles,
and the whole
pancakes.
world opened
Lovely.
up to me. Yeah, pancakes, maple syrup,
Yeah.
crispy bacon.
Ooh.
And those taste buds for my youth, those things, the difference in the sort of school meals, which were all grey, whatever you were eating, it was all dark grey or pale green, to suddenly go to a school where they had pizza and chocolate milk and ice cream machine. It's like, but those waffles and things, that American breakfast compared to ours, toast and Marmite.
If we're going to the school hall, then it reminds me of growing up in Aberdeenshire, and the
Yeah.
dining room called the Dineys, as they called it up in Inverurie. And I was introduced to the delights of two particularly doughy treats, one of which was a buttery, which is basically
What's that?
A what?
Basically very salty, buttery dough. I'm sure there's a more technical description of it, but I tell you what, after a night out at the ritzy nightclub in Aberdeen on a Saturday, wearing your best C&A stay pressed trousers, a buttery was the only thing that could. I won't sober you up because we weren't quite of an age then, but you know, if you were feeling a little bit worse for wear, then a buttery would do the job. And then for 11sies, or you know, in the Dineys, I was introduced to the Yum Yum, which again is just a twisted dough but covered in icing, and it was absolutely spectacular.
Ooh.
I remember the first time ever going to America though, when I was about 11, and I'd only ever had, you know, in England, you know, you have ice cream, you have chocolate ice cream or vanilla ice cream, and then I saw Baskin Robbins, and I couldn't.
31 flavours.
31 flavours. I thought,
Now, you see, I'm like Richard, I don't have a sweet tooth at all. I like savoury. And my dad, who was from Sunderland, used to make the biggest Yorkshire puddings you have ever seen in your life. And he used to have the Yorkshire puddings with jam.
Yeah.
And it's always been my favourite thing. Yeah, because Yorkshire is a cake, really, isn't it? It's only, you know. Yeah. So we'd have jam in it, and then at dinner time, you'd have gravy in it. But Yorkshire would be like a treat. Yorkshire puddings were the biggest things you've ever seen. I love a Yorkshire pudding.
Yes,
I love a Yorkshire pudding.
do you remember many years ago there was a restaurant in Leeds called Get Stuffed?
No.
There was. When he used to work for Yorkshire Television, I used to love it because they used to book a table, you used to answer the phone and go, "Hello, get stuffed." But what they did was that's what their speciality is. They used to serve everything in Yorkshire puddings. That's why they called Get Stuffed.
Amazing.
I bet you can make a good one, can't you, Richard?
Oh, do you know, that is something that Mum, I should have taken more heed from Mum with regard to that, because she always made a Yorkshire. Now, when the pubs were open, our local watering hole, I would pop in and see Jackie, and she'd say to me, "How many today, Richard?" I go, "We've got 6 for lunch." So I'd have the lamb already slammed in, and Jackie would give me some foiled up Yorkshire puddings.
Yorkshire pudding.
Fantastic.
And the thing is, it's terrible to admit, but because I get up so early for the day job, on a Sunday, we'd still wake up early, and the other half and I would be knocking at the door of the local at midday for a pint, read the papers, get the Yorkshires, be back by 1, crack open a bottle. People would arrive about 2 o'clock. Oh, they were beautiful days, girls. Those days. Those were the days. We should do it again. I can't wait to start the last you lot.
I know.
Yeah. Will it be like the Roaring '20s again?
Yes.
Yes.
We will roar.
Madness. Ripping off our clothes. Oh no, maybe not. So let's scare the dog.
Can I just say one thing? How do people feel? I still like cheese on toast with some Worcester sauce.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, not Worcester sauce. Cheese on toast. But
Cheese on toast. I love it.
But Richard, when you were a naughty little boy, what treat did your mummy give you when you were forgiven? What was your treat that your mummy gave you when you were a little boy? You must have had a treat.
Well, obviously, being an only child, I'd be sat in bed with a princess telephone.
Yes, of course.
Waiting. Actually, do you know what? It's funny you should say that. Mum used to always say, you know, when it was time to get up, I'd hear this siren call, if you like, from downstairs. And it would be Richard Andrew, Richard Andrew. And obviously, I'd be waking, you know, bathed in sunlight. Makeup still on from the school and what was a real treat is, and this is an awful thing to admit, but I mean it just shows my mum. This is what mum's all about, to bring it full circle, because at the moment I am going to hers for breakfast most days because it's on the way back from the studio. I think I've told you that. She'd bring me breakfast in bed. Isn't that awful thing to hear?
No,
it's
that's
lovely.
sweet.
Lovely.
Lovely.
Yeah. I mean, obviously not before going to school, but at the weekend, there would be breakfast in bed. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a bungalow. There were no stairs for her to do, so it was hardly any.
It's lovely.
I said that's the one thing I miss about not being in a relationship. When you're in a relationship and somebody actually just makes you a cup of coffee or brings you a piece of toast.
Yeah.
I've never had that in my life. Nobody's made anything for me ever. No man has cooked for me ever. I'm not bitter and twisted at all.
Matron. I can't remember the last time I had breakfast in bed. I can't remember.
No.
Oh,
No,
I'm
those
gonna-
Very
days
long
are
ago, 'cause
gone.
my kids always do that for birthdays and whatever. They
Yeah.
always keep, but the thing is that they takes them so long to get it together that I'm usually up in the bedroom till 1:30 in the afternoon by the time they come up there. But at least I know it's coming. It's a really nice. We are very lucky. We're still lucky to be healthy, all of us, actually.
Yeah,
Let us thank God today that we're all healthy. We're all here and we're all healthy.
that is true. That is
Yeah, we're
true.
lucky
At our
to be
tender
healthy.
age.
And please give your mum our love, Richard.
I will do. I shall call her.
And I
straight.
hope she's fine. I hope she's
Yes.
fine. She will be. She will be.
I'm sure she will.
When's her next one, Richard?
Well, as I say, it'll be between 3 and 12 weeks. So
It's quite a long time then.
yeah, between 3 and 12 weeks. They give you a little card, like we used to have, we went to the doctors when we were younger with all our little vaccination book and stuff like that. Measles, mumps and all that sort of capers. So yeah, you get a little card and they give you a little bit of literature. After you have the jab, you sit down and you wait for 10 minutes or so and they check that you're all good and then you pass off. But it's just incredibly liberating in a very physical sense, but I think also liberating in terms of that collective anxiety that we've all had. We've talked about frequently.
Yes.
Of
course.
And that residual anxiety that's there every day when you wake up, and it just makes a little dent in that. And you think, right.
Fantastic.
Did they give you advice? Did they give her advice and say, look, you've got to wait to see, and it doesn't mean that you're immune yet, or do they give you advice?
It's all in the literature, all spelled out in the literature. They did mention though that she should continue at 83, giving her only child breakfast in bed. Which
Yes, and that helped.
That was a caveat,
isn't it?
It's the process, I
Yeah.
thought it would be in the small print, but no, they were very explicit about that.
Yeah.
That's halfway across London to give her child breakfast in bed. But that's
Right. Debbie,
From
the
Lords.
least I can do now that she's 83 is go to her for breakfast.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Angel. It's been lovely to see you. We'll see you
Oh,
next
it's been
week.
great.
See you next
Yes.
week. I cannot wait.
See you next week.
Thank
Bye,
you, darling. We love you
God
so
bless
much.
you, ladies. Stay safe. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.
Thank you,
Hug,
darling.
hug, hug. Mwah, mwah, mwah.
Bye.
Bye.